Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and
Good
welcome
morning.
to season two, episode one of Morning Tea. I know we've been gone for a long time, and life happens. If you've been following my page, you know exactly what has happened over the last 6 months that caused me to disappear. But I'm back now with a brand new year, and I have a returning guest with me today. So today we have Lourna Charles with us. She is a relationships expert. Now she has been here before. She talked to us when she was here before, more about her backstory and how she became who she is today. But here today we're going to be talking about relationships, right? She has a whole program for people who are married to make sure that they're making the most of their marriages. But we want to start from the beginning because we can't talk about marriages until we get to marriages, right? And so
Right.
we're gonna work our way up to her program and what it does for women mostly, right, who are married and how they can stay happy and fulfilled in their marriages by having a cohesive partnership with their male, becoming one, becoming a unified entity, which I think a lot of us have issues with, right? A lot of us, I know from having many talks with a lot of women, especially single women and some married women, the word submission evokes terror and hostility both within a lot of people. And I have listened to enough relationship experts, and we've had some talks before. And I know that one of the things that you talk about, submission, but what most people think submission is isn't what you're talking about. Well, let's start with that word. Let's make that our
Submission, I think people think of the word submission as the woman always has to submit, like it's not both ways. Submission is both, the man and the woman, right? If you have a man who is a good leader, right? If you have a man who leads the family very well, why wouldn't you want to submit, right? I think as in a partnership, everyone has roles.
right.
So we each play our roles and we do it well. Submitting is not a bad thing. If you have a good wife, a good man, and you're submitting one to another, I think it's a beautiful partnership.
So what do you mean when you say submitting? Explain to us exactly what submitting may mean. Different scenarios of submitting. Does it mean that you have to do everything that your husband says to do, that you don't have a voice in the relationship?
No way. Submitting does not mean that my voice does not get heard. No, no. Submission means we have conversation. My husband and I, we talk about what is best for the household. Let's say, there's a certain bill that needs to be paid. And right now, I want to redecorate my bedroom, right? And my husband's like, oh, you know what, honey, right now, we don't have the funds. But in the future, right, when we have increased funds, you can do whatever you want with the bedroom. But right now, let's allocate that money towards paying this bill. And I say, all right, honey, you're right. That is submission, but it's for the good of the relationship as well. It's not just, oh, he told me what to do and I must follow it. No, it's that he understands, we understand that there are priorities, right? And because there are priorities in relationship, we have to make sure sometimes we compromise, even though we may want something.
So you said something that I want to piggyback on. And what I was thinking about when you were talking is submitting is a lot like compromising, only that the word submission has such a negative connotation to it that we don't think about it in the form that you just said it. It's a compromise.
It
It's
is
about
a
being able
compromise.
to communicate effectively with your spouse or your significant other and coming to a compromise that is best for the family unit. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, for the single ladies, right, who have not had the luck of getting married yet, what are some strategies? What are some suggestions that you have for for these women to get to the point? Because I think most women want to be married, but again, there's some barriers to getting there. Whether it's that we feel that we're supposed to be super independent and we're supposed to make all the decisions. We don't want a man to take care of us, or there's not enough men to take care of us, or that we feel like we don't want to submit in a relationship, that we don't want someone to tell us what to do. What are some strategies and tips and strategies you can get women to get to the point from being a single woman, being a married woman, if that is what they desire?
Right. I mean, over the summer, I did a program where I talked about the 7 non-negotiables. And what the 7 non-negotiables are things, core values that not just women, but everyone must have in order to decide who you should enter into partnership with, right? So it shouldn't be anything that is frivolous. Our core values are things that are important to us, things that if even one of them was to be missing from our partner, we would not be happy in their relationship. So I tell women all the time, sit down and reflect on what is important to me. What are the things that 10, 20, 30 years from now that will still be important to me? And according to that list, choose a person that you want to do life with. Because the fact is, if you enter into a relationship, you don't have a roadmap, you are going to get lost. If you enter into a relationship and the person is not meeting your need, then you're going to leave. And there goes the cycle. It's like, okay, I tried this, it didn't work. But did you go into it with intentionality? That's important. With everything we do in life, we have to be intentional. We have to have a plan. We wouldn't go somewhere which we weren't familiar without a GPS, right? We wouldn't go without a roadmap. So if we can, put such value in these things, why not what's most important to us, which is a relationship? The fact is, who you decide to do life with can mean misery or abundance. It can mean lack or it can mean overflow. So don't be discouraged if you're in a situation now where you're single and you're wanting to be married and you just can't find the person. Sometimes also, Tracy, we have to work in in ourselves. We have to work to see what is within me, what it is, what work must I do before I can meet the person. The fact is, if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, if we're not sure, as to who we are as people, we're not going to be good in the relationship anyway.
Right. So I totally agree with that. Working on self-love is extremely important. Getting to know who you are as a person, what your wants, needs, and desires are the first step to finding that partner.
Exactly.
Because if you don't know who you are and what you want, then you're just going to be picking up basically trash.
Right. Like what is your love language? What makes you happy? You need to know these things about yourself first. So when you meet that person, you can know if they're the right person for you.
Right. So what do you say to people who always think that the person that they're picking up is the right person and their relationships consistently end in disaster?
I mean, how is it working for them? That's my first question. If you've met 1, 2, 3, person and it hasn't worked, it means that either two, you haven't done your homework or you are selling yourself short. Settling is never an option because the fact is, if we're in a hurry to be partnered and we're settling, we will always be disappointed because that person will never work out. So what are you doing? Is it that you're not making the right choices? Is it that, you don't know how to choose what's best for you? Is it that you've been in relationships that just has not serviced you very well, but you have been taught that this behavior is acceptable because that's how he or she treated me in my previous relationship. So now I'm just settling and I'm not even realizing that it's settling.
Well, that brings up a good point because I was listening to a relationship expert the other day who was telling a woman that she should settle, right? Because that's all she can get. She's a basic woman who can only get a basic man, and she needs to accept that she can only get a basic man.
I think I saw that. That was like all over social media. That made me so upset because here you have a person who is speaking their opinion as though they are facts, right? So this young lady came into the show wanting to be validated, which right there you could tell her self-esteem was not up to par. So you come to a man to tell you how good you are. When you're secure within yourself, you don't look to a man, you don't look to a woman to validate you because you're secure within yourself. Why settle? Why settle? Because you're not going to be happy in the end anyway.
Right. But that is what we're taught to do, is to settle. This is what you're getting right now. This is what you can get. So you're better off taking something than nothing. Like the person said at the end of the interview, you're going to die alone. And a lot of people are afraid of being alone. They're afraid of growing old and being alone. So the one thing that that person did say that I did agree with is that a lot of people, a lot of women, maybe men too, but I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, do need to get some form of counseling because of, you know, hurt and pain and trauma that has affected them from early on in their lives, that you're bringing from relationship to relationship to relationship. And I think we did speak briefly about that in our pre-conversation, how you have to learn how to let go of what happened to you in a previous relationship before you can get into a new relationship and grow a healthy relationship. So let's expound upon that.
Relationship trauma is a serious thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Dr. Boyce Watkins who said he equated relationship trauma to an STD. So some people, whoa, I was like, whoa, that is a word, right? Because you think of it this way, right? You in a relationship and you get the worst treatment. Your partner, it does not treat you well. So what happens? You leave that relationship. Now in your next relationship, you treat that person with such disdain because you're not cognizant, right, of the trauma that you've experienced in previous relationships. There was the STD. So you just kind of spew all that negativity, all that this bad aura into the next person because you have not dealt with the trauma you experienced. Before anyone could really get into a solid relationship, you have to do the self-work. We get hurt. Relationships don't always work out, and that's just a fact, right? So because they don't always work out, meaning we have some work to do. Unpack. My last relationship did not work. Okay, let me unpack it. How did I show up in the relationship? What could I have done differently, right? And maybe it would have yielded a different outcome. Or maybe the same one, but now it would be my choice to leave that relationship because I recognize that I am better than that.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, doing the work, because a lot of times I think people use a new relationship to get over another relationship. And you're taking all the hurt, pain, and trauma from that relationship. So if the previous relationship ended in infidelity, let's say, you're going to just be constantly mistrusting of the new partner because you're expecting the same outcome.
The same outcome.
You didn't go into the relationship expecting that this was going to be a better relationship for you. You went into the relationship trying to get rid of the thoughts, the hurt, the pain of the previous relationship. And I always tell my friends, I know I had friends who they could not for anything be alone. Being alone was a problem. So if they broke up with somebody today, they always had someone on backup, right? Because they have to get back into another relationship. Sometimes 24 hours didn't pass and they were already in a relationship, right? And that's like serious, like when we were back in our 20s. And I find that they were just going through a vicious cycle of pain, hurt, and they just kept hurting themselves and hurting other people that they were getting into these relationships with. And luckily, one of my friends, one day, she just happened to butt up upon someone who was just a genuinely nice and caring person and got married and settled down and has been married now for like the last 15 years. Awesome. But it doesn't happen like that for most people. And, that was just her luck. But she had gone through that cycle. And even when she got into marriage, she still had to go to relationship therapy because she still was bringing all those relationships into this marriage of mistrust. But thank God, he was the stronger partner. He was older and more settled and was able to also help her through, all of that hurt and pain that she brought in and that mistrust. And now they have a really great marriage, but just even sometimes when you do find that perfect partner, if you have not let go of everything else that you brought to the table, it's still going to be okay.
Exactly. For people like that, I always wonder, like, do you not like yourself? Why are you not enough to be your own company?
That particular friend, no.
There you go. Until you
Maybe
learn to
had
love
a lot
yourself.
of childhood trauma that she was just trying to bury, and she was burying it from relationship to relationship, but it was causing her more pain. But she
Trauma,
couldn't see that. You're using pain to get over pain.
yes,
So,
listen, Tracy, trauma is so pervasive. You really cannot get ahead in life or in a relationship without addressing past traumas, because it rears its ugly head everywhere because you're not addressing it. So it's important. Therapy is great. I wish more people had resources that would allow them to seek therapeutic services, because therapy is great. You have to, at some point in life, sit with yourself and process, what have I done in life? Why am I in this situation? What can I do differently to move my life forward? And unless you do the work, you don't really reap the benefits.
right. But so, what what should I say? What are some strategies that you would give to these women? Do you suggest that maybe they sit back and take some time by themselves before entering into new relationships? Because one of the things that I've heard from a lot of women, they get chastised for not having a man or a woman, because whether
Listen,
you're a gay person or you're straight, it doesn't matter if you're going from relationship to relationship. I know after my last relationship, I was extremely traumatized, right? And I just decided that I needed to find out who Tracy was again, because I felt like I had lost myself in that relationship, and I was a shell of myself. I didn't even recognize who I was anymore. And I felt like I needed to be by myself and center myself and find myself. But there is a downside to that. Sometimes you get too comfortable in that space as well, and you cannot see yourself in another relationship. God, I'm telling out my secrets, but
right.
hey.
There's a medium. There's a balance, right?
Yeah.
For women especially, who find themselves, hearing outside noise of, why aren't you in a relationship? You're getting older, like, you need to have a child. Do not succumb to that pressure. Because the fact is, should you succumb to it and get involved in a relationship that does not serve you, you're the person that has to be with this person. You're the person that has to wake up next to this individual. So the person that's giving you advice does not have to live in this relationship. So be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. Do the work. Find out what it is that you like, what it is that you're looking for in life. Who you marry makes a difference as to how far you go in life, right? So being confident, coming into a relationship with the confidence of, I know who I am. I know who Lourna is. I know what she brings to the table. So if I know that about myself, I'm going to bring someone into my life that, comes in and that complements who I am, that provide that complements and that provide the security that we're looking for in that partnership. Never enter into a relationship after a breakup without first having sat with yourself to understand what happened. Like, what happened in that relationship. Unpacking that relationship is important to the success of your next one.
Yeah. Understanding what happened in the relationship, what role you played in the demise
Exactly.
of the relationship as
Exactly.
well.
Exactly. Because the fact is, if someone treat you bad in a relationship, you allowed it. You teach people how to treat you.
Yes, I 100%, 100%. I always tell people can only do to you what you allow them to do to you. Now,
Exactly.
some people are so damaged, and I don't know if that's the right term, but they're not, they need help, right? They need some
Right.
therapy, that they can't even recognize the fact that they're allowing the behavior to continue onward. They don't realize that at all. I have come across people who don't realize that they're actually, fostering that bad behavior by not speaking up for themselves. But they get in a place where they feel so cowardly, and they feel like they cannot exist without this other person, that they allow that behavior to continue on. So one of the things that you did say that I wanted to talk about, you keep talking about knowing what you want and making sure that's what you're going after, like probably writing it down, pros and cons. What do you want in a man? What do you want in a woman? Whatever it is, writing it down and be clear. And like you said, 7 things that you absolutely will not compromise on. Yeah.
Non-negotiables.
Suppose one of those things that you absolutely would not compromise on is the person having a certain standing in life, financial standing. So that person cannot have bad credit. That person needs to at least have a six-figure income or a five-figure, whatever it is. You know, women especially are made to feel like that is not a good attribute because they feel like, that is taking out a pool of men that cannot meet that standard and that they're gold diggers for wanting that financial security.
Look, here's the thing. If I'm at that level where I've done the work, right, and I'm bringing in six figures or I'm working towards that, why is it wrong to want someone, as a partner who's going to match, that level of success? Why is it? Because we have to build wealth as well. We can't enter into relationship just for the heck of it, just for sexual pleasures. The fact is, relationships, they're life partnerships. If we're looking for a long-term relationship, we're looking for a life partnership, meaning that's an important value for someone to want to build wealth. So why not ask for the person to have good credit? Why not want that person to be involved, in for the financial world, to want to do better in life? As I think, as a culture, as Black people, we don't think about wealth building. Because a lot of us, we enter into relationships and it's just we're having fun for the moment. We're not building wealth. Relationship, having a stable foundation, a stable household is a big component to building wealth. So do not compromise. It's an important core value. You're not a gold digger if you have done the work, right? You're bringing that to the table. If you have done the work and you're willing to sacrifice to get there, you also want someone who's going to sacrifice to meet you at that level.
So what do you think when people would say it's hypocrisy that a woman would want a man who's making six figures, let's say for instance, to be her partner, but a man will pick up a woman who's making less than six figures and make her his partner, but we as women want too much? Because I've heard that argument several times.
Who determines what I want? I determine what I want. I determine, how I want my life to look in the future. If I'm painting that picture of what my life is going to look like and I'm putting in the work myself, I will not settle for a man who is not willing to do the work. If a man is a six-figure earner and decides to be with someone who's less, that's his choice. But you don't get to determine for me what I should choose.
Right. I get it. So let's talk about the two programs that you have for people who are already married and may be having some issues in their relationship or want to take their relationship to the next levels, because I think there are levels to even be married people, right? You have a basic marriage where you kind of like exist, because I know people who do that. They exist as roommates. And I'm like, oh, why get married to someone's roommate?
Exactly. Listen.
Why are you married and you're acting as roommates? You're like, two ships passing in the night, right? There's no real connection in the marriage. It's kind of more like a business contract, which I do believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that marriages are business contracts.
Absolutely.
With additional, services.
Yes, marriages are absolutely business contracts, right? Yeah. Because we have to make a commitment and we have to honor our commitments, right? Yeah. The two relationship courses that I have, one is called Loving You #My Relationship Goal. And that is a pre-engagement course. It's geared for people who've been together for a while. They're at that crossroads and they're saying, okay, I love you and I want us to have a life together, but I don't know what that should look like. In that course, we talk about trauma, past relationship traumas. We address all those issues to help the couple discover how to move forward. And the other one is Marriage Matter, because marriage does matter. Marriage, and a stable marriage, is the foundation for building wealth. And that course is also for pre-engaged, for couples who are engaged. We talk about just nuances in relationships, trauma, right? Infidelity, insecurities, how to budget. We talk about everything that relates to the relationship, whatever the struggle is that we can process to help the couple move forward in their relationship. And I tell people, once you've done the work, you can decide how you're moving forward. Sometimes we move forward together, and other times after we've done the work, we realize, oh my goodness, we are not the best of match. Maybe we're better apart. And that's okay too.
And you said something that I want to expound upon. You said marriage is the gate, basically, I'm paraphrasing right now. Marriage is the gateway to gaining wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why can't I
Absolutely.
get in a relationship and not be okay? We can be
If
in a
you're
long-term relationship.
if you're a single person, you're doing well for yourself, right? But you never get married. All that wealth you have accumulated over time, when you're gone, where does it go? Right? Who carries? Let's say there's no kids, right?
Okay.
Even if there are kids, but they're not married, it's not guaranteed that that wealth will continue. Whereas opposed, if we're married, we're both building this life together. When we're gone, that wealth get passed down, and for future generations get to keep the idea, keep the vision, keep the legacy of me, right? Of us moving forward. And that's how we build our white counterparts. That's how they build wealth. The Rockefellers. I mean, that name has been around for a long time. They're building wealth. They may have their issues, I'm sure, but the fact is they keep their things together enough that they can keep passing on their wealth to future generations.
Okay. And I agree. I mean, the legalities behind being married and the ease of which it is to pass things down from one generation to the next just makes to me common sense. And a two-income household is definitely better than a one-income
One income
household.
household.
You can gain so much and do so much more with two incomes versus
Exactly.
one. Even if you're making $150,000 a year, if your husband is making $150,000 a year, that's
Combine that.
$300,000 in your
Exactly.
household
Exactly.
versus your 150. You could probably survive really well on your 150 and pay all of your bills. But imagine if there was another 150 in the house. That's savings. That's something you can invest into to gain more wealth. So I do understand. I'm not married, y'all, but I do understand the whole concept of getting married and why marriage is so important. And I think in the Black community, we have definitely gotten away from marriage, especially as women, because we were so focused on getting our degrees and our advanced degrees. We're the one of the most educated populations in the United States. Have also stopped having children and stopped getting married. So there has to be some type of balance. And I think because education comes independence and that independence comes, well, I don't need it.
50% of Black women never get married. That's a large number.
That's an alarming number.
It is, and that's problematic for future generations, right? Like you said earlier, if I'm a single mother, if I'm a single person, and I make all this good money, the fact is, it's only me. I have to account to Peter, John, and Paul. I have to pay all the bills, so I cannot invest, right? I cannot save as much because I have to answer to all the bills. Whereas if I had a partner, we're building wealth together. We each bring what we bring to the table, and together we combine. We decide to, and we can invest because we have the excess to do so.
Yeah, I agree. This was a really good conversation. I really hope that the people who are listening got a lot from it. If you are in a relationship, not in a relationship, want to get in a relationship, or in a relationship that you're having some issues with, please reach out to Lourna. Lourna, please tell us and I forgot to put that up, but please give us your contact email for your website.
I don't have a website yet. I am very active on social media. I am Gracie Counseling Services on Facebook, at Gracie Counseling on Instagram. In any of these, I'm very active. So if anyone reaches out to me on any of these platforms, I am accessible.
Okay, so definitely reach out to Lourna. And this is such an interesting conversation. Like I said, she was here before. So I'm going to put a link in the description to her previous video. And then, of course, you should watch this video. And I would love to have her back at some other point in time, because I think that we really need to get our relationship situations together, especially with an alarming number like 50%. I didn't even realize it was that much. But like you said, marriage is the gateway to building wealth and legacy in the Black community. And we need to get back to that standard where we're getting married. So Lourna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And of course, you're always welcome back.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you again for joining me for Morning Tea. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye now.
Bye.